Hi, welcome to my artist talk for the Kranzberg for my show Eyes Wide Open Surveillance Series. I hope you like it. I wanted to first start out by sharing with you some of the inspiration for one of the pieces in my show right now. And what you see is a life-size candy carpet, which inspired the work on display right now. This carpet is made entirely of many different types of candy, and it was inspired by the beauty and my love of all the patterns and colors of Middle Eastern carpets. Here's a close-up detail of that carpet. You can see the different types of candies. And the center medallion, it has lemon drops in it, and there's lots of licorice and marshmallows, all which make a really intricate pattern. Before making those actual carpet installations on the floor, I was still fascinated by carpets and their patterns and did this painting in watercolor of a Middle Eastern carpet. I was pretty surprised when just a couple years ago I discovered that there was such a thing as a war carpet or a war rug that was woven in Afghanistan by traditional weavers, and these were made to sell to the US military. The designs, though, on these war carpets were very contemporary, and they all featured things like hand grenades and tanks and rockets and rifles. I especially was pretty surprised when I saw this war carpet, which features military drones. I'd already been working here in St. Louis on my surveillance series for some time, and I had this really strong concern about the use of surveillance, especially locally, but also regionally and nationally by the government, by corporations, and by other individuals. And I was working with the group called Privacy Watch St. Louis. It was about that time that I came up with the idea to make my own drone carpet. And I decided what it would need would be lots of little tiny drone models. So this kind of went back to when I was a child, my love of building models. My aunt had a hobby shop which closed down, and she gave me and my brothers all the kits of hobbies from her store. So we learned to build hobbies always. Here are a couple examples of model kits that you can build that are airplanes. It was soon after I found out about war carpets that I discovered there actually was a tiny surveillance drone called the Black Hornet. So I looked into this and researched it, and what I found out was pretty amazing. The UN and members of the UN purchased this Black Hornet tiny drone to use by their military. It was manufactured in Norway, and it's so small that it's able to fly in and do surveillance without being detected. The actual size is just a little over 4¼ inches long. So it's truly tiny, and I decided I wanted to make drone sculptures that were very, very similar to this in size and in shape. This was my initial idea, to make a black platform on the floor and make about 150 little drone sculptures in white and gray, and then to arrange them on the platform so that they created the pattern of the American flag. So I was thinking of this as a comment on US government and military surveillance. I had to think for a really long time as to how I could make so many little tiny sculptures, but make them all the same. I think for about 3 months, I was just considering, well, will I make these out of ceramics? Will I cast these in a mold out of resin? Will I make them out of plaster? What will I do? I just really had no idea. So I drew this plan to scale, and then I figured out the best solution would be to make them using 3D design software so that I could then print them using a 3D printer. So what I did is I looked into the design software and I found one that was free called Tinkercad. And I taught myself how to use that. And here you can see some of the very first steps of my process of designing the drones. The parts are in different colors, and it got really technical because I learned a lot of things about what you have to do to be able to print something in 3D. This is, I think, a beautiful image, and it's part of the process of 3D design where the program converts all your designs, and it's called rendering. So here I'm pretty far along, and I've managed to hollow out the body of the drone. There is a rod poking through it to make a hole in the front and back so it will be hollow. And I managed to get it to look really, really similar in shape to the actual Black Hornet. And here you can see the front view and the in view. My next step was to try to print some prototypes, and all along the way I ran into a lot of trouble. So I was here, you can see in the front, I was trying to print the drone in 2 halves, which I would plan to glue together, because I learned that when you 3D print something, it prints from the bottom up, and it can only get smaller. It can't get bigger. So there was no way to print it as it would actually sit like the drone in the back, because all the parts would have been drooping. I also learned, of course, that the top rotor and the tail rotor, they all had to be printed separately because they would have drooped. I researched all different types of 3D printing and decided that what I was trying was not going to work, so instead I went with a technique called selective laser sintering. And sintering is S-I-N-T-E-R-I-N-G. It just means that the laser beam is shooting around in the shape of the object you want to print. And it shoots into a box of nylon powder and actually melts it and creates your shape. So here I've got a whole bag full of the drone bodies that were printed. And here we have the rotors for the top. You'll notice that everything is printed in white, and I actually needed half of everything to be gray. So here I have started painting the top rotors with some gray paint and letting them all dry. I also had to make the rods for the tails, so I used little wooden dowel rods for that and painted those too. Here you can see the arrangement of all the tiny tail rotors that I'm also painting. After everything was painted, it was then time to assemble the little drones, so I had to build some little templates with clay to put all the pieces in place and hold them while I glued them together. Here you can see that I'm using caramels at the top of the photo to hold all the parts of the drone bodies and the rotors together while I'm gluing them with super glue. And here is a sample of some of the finished, painted, and assembled drones. After all the drone sculptures were made, I concluded that I really didn't want to have a solid black platform anymore. So at that point, I decided to fill up the area that would normally in the US flag have stars and to make little tiny explosions, each different, to fill that area. And then I also decided to paint the area that would normally have red and white stripes in a camouflage pattern that would be in grayscale. This is the process of painting the platform with all those designs. Each of the little explosions had to be painted in 3 colors, and each one of the 3 colors took 3 layers of paint. So I started with orange, and then I did the next area in yellow, and then I finished up each explosion in the center with white. The drones all come apart for transportation, so to install the show at the Kranzberg required putting all the drones back together again. The title of this piece is US of A Drone Carpet, and here it is on view at the Kranzberg Gallery. I hope you can go visit. Thanks.